two parcels to open, and they're both going to be carded coins. Can't wait to get these little fellas open. All right, so here we go. Let's do the Perth Mint one first. Let's open her up and see what's inside. As always, I'll share the price later. Oh, and there she is. And here they are. These are the Perth Mint, and these are the Chinese Myths and Legends coins. These two went on sale, and then when I ordered them, I went back to have a look. I don't know, just to have another look at the site, and they were gone. They were sold out. They went real quick. So we have this one here, which is the coloured 1 ounce dragon and horse coin. Let's have a bit of a closer look. Look at that. It's a pretty special coin. Do like it. Lots of colours in that one. Very magic looking coin. And of course, on the back of these carded coins is always a nice little bit about the coin itself. And we have Charles on the back there, of course, and these are a mintage of 5,000, and I collect these. This one doesn't really blow my socks off that much, but I do like it. Chinese Myths and Legends. This is the dragon and horse coin. And the other one, and this was the one that I like, actually. This is the Chinese Myths and Legends. This is the dragon and horse coin again. Although I tend to like this one just a little bit better. This is the Opalite. That's what they call the Opalite. Look at the clouds and motifs in the background. And of course, on the back is King Charles, a little fold out. This is the information on the coin, 5,000. Although I think they made 20,000 of these coins, only 5,000 of them on cards. But yeah, this is the China. Well, I'm back. Unfortunately, my camera battery decided it had enough about halfway through this video, so you missed the unboxing of the second parcel, but it's okay. I can show you what's inside, which is this little beauty. This is the 2008 Perth Mint Lunar Series 1 mouse. It's a 1 ounce silver coin and card. An absolutely beautiful coin, and as many collectors will know, the Lunar Series 1 are coins of the most sought after Perth Mint releases ever produced. The Perth Mint started the Lunar Series 1 in gold back in 1990s. But actually, you know what? I'll have a look at it. Where was it? 1996. So yeah, the Perth Mint started Lunar Series 1 in gold in 1996 with the mouse. That's what this should have been, 1996. And of course, Series 1 went from 1996 to 2007. So that would have ended up with the Year of the Pig in 2007. So you can see this is actually 2007, but it really should be 1996. But Perth Mint got about, I don't know, I think they got up to about the rabbit or something like that. I might have been the dragon, 1999 or 2000. And they started producing these silver coins. And then they went, oh, hang on a second, we better start producing those ones we missed, which was the rat, the ox, the tiger, and maybe the rabbit, I'm not quite sure. But there was a few of them that were all brought out on the same time. The thing that's confusing is that this says 2008. Well, as you know, Series 1 finished in 2007. So Series 2 started in 2008. So this is 2008, but really should be 1996. Here is Lunar Series, I'll put a picture here. Lunar Series 2, the first coin, 2008 Lunar Mouse. So there's two, which is really kind of confusing. But anyway, that's what happened. And of course, we are where we're at now. But I've not seen these before. And I've been collecting for quite a number of decades. Must have just missed it. I was more of a stacker in the beginning, not a collector. So a lot of these I sort of just missed. But it's a beautiful coin. It's 1 troy ounce, 99.9 pure silver. Comes in this original Perth Mint presentation card. I'm not sure of the card coin mintage numbers, but you know, the early Lunar Series 1 card releases didn't come up for sale very often, which is kind of what attracted me to this one. There's some of the stats, but it doesn't tell you the mintage, does it? I might have a look. If I find it, I'll put the mintage here. Of course, there's the mintage of the coin itself, which is this beautiful coin. And then there's the mintage of the coin without the card. So there's usually two lots. And so, yeah, I've only really discovered this Perth Mint carded Lunar coin series now. And of course, now I've started another collection. Now, for you that have followed my channel for a while, you'll know that early this year, I sold the vast majority of my stack. I'd been stacking silver for around 20 years, buying tubes and rolls and kilos and bars whenever I could. It was just ingrained in me to stack. Well, in January, the silver prices kind of really took off, and I decided to sell some. I was actually on holidays with my wife, and it was about December, and we're away from Australia, and it went up to like $100, and I was getting close to $100. This is Australian, and I said to my wife, when I get back, I tell you what, if it's still around that money, I'll sell some and we'll go on another trip. Well, when I got back, it just had increased more. So I decided to sell some, and well, quickly turned into quite a lot. The demand was crazy. It was almost insatiable. I put up some for sale and it would just disappear almost immediately. People kept asking me for more, so I kept selling it. And before you know it, I was selling it from what I started was just a small portion of my stack, and it just snowballed into selling almost all of it. There were times I was selling hundreds of ounces at a time, and it just eventually, I looked in the cupboard and there just wasn't much left. I felt a little bit, because it was just ingrained in me for so many years to sell, to buy. And then to sell, it's just so unnatural, But look, I don't regret it. I know silver will go higher in the future, but at the prices available at the time, as I said, some pieces were selling $130, $40, $150 an ounce Australian. So it made sense to me. But I suppose out of all of that, the most interesting thing is that selling most of my stack has changed the way I collect. Instead of buying more and more bullion, I'm now focused on collectible Perth Mint carded coins, the Royal Australian Mint coins. I like these Chinese myths and legends, the Great Southern Lands, and the other Opal series, Lunar series that Perth Mint put out. So I've recently gone from that stacking to unstacking, and believe me, I did think about, because I'd cashed out, I thought about rebuying recently when it went down so far. It went down to about $89 an ounce, I think it was Australian. And I thought about it, and well, this has become my new challenge. And rather than accumulating kilos and kilos, I'm just really genuinely enjoying buying and owning and looking at these. Now, before anybody thinks that I'm anti-stacking, let me be clear. I absolutely believe in stacking. I think it's important. In fact, I'll probably still buy an odd piece of silver from time to time. The difference is that I'm no longer buying tubes and rolls and kilos and monster boxes like I used to. These days, I get far more enjoyment out of collecting than stacking. To be honest, selling most of my stack earlier this year was a bit of a turning point for me. Funds allowed me to pay off some debts, improve my financial position, and put me in a place where I can enjoy collecting without feeling I need to accumulate more and more silver. Unstacking is extremely difficult, believe me. After decades of solely focused on stacking, it is difficult to unstack. And it was just that opportunity that came up in January that this happened. So that's really where my focus is now. And look, thinking about stacking for younger people, if you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you've got plenty of time to accumulate a stack, hold it, and eventually sell it when the time's right. The whole idea of stacking is delayed gratification. You're buying for today for a benefit that might come in years or even decades down the track. But when you get to my age, things are looking a little bit different. I'm in my 60s, and let's just say I'm closer to 70 than I am 60. And people talk about holding silver for 20, 30 years. Well, that's not quite the same proposition for me as someone who is 35 or 40. Now, don't get me wrong. I know there are stackers in their 70s and 80s who are still buying silver every week. And I watch their channels and I enjoy their content. If that's what makes them happy, that's fantastic. It's just not where I am in my life anymore. What I've realised is there comes a point when, you have to think about the other side of stacking. Everyone talks about how to stack. Very few people talk about how to unstack. At some point, all stackers become unstackers. Well, hopefully. That's simply how the journey ends. The challenge is knowing when that time arrives. Now, for me, it wasn't even really clear. But in January, that opportunity came. Prices were moving strongly, demand was high, they went through the roof, and buyers were everywhere. Some people were saying, hold on, silver's going to get much higher. Maybe they were right, and maybe it will go much higher. But I also know the markets don't go up forever. Well, they kind of do, but they seesaw. And that huge increase, I knew that at some stage it was going to end, right? At some stage, it was going to sort of start to settle down and go back down again, possibly go back up again, but you know what I mean. The splurge, the surge, for want of a better word, was over, or getting to, it has a life extent at least. So as the saying goes, you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them. So the time was right for me, I suppose. I wasn't even planning to sell very much. I think I was just looking at finding another holiday. But I put a few ounces up for sale, and man, they just disappeared. And as I was saying before, people just wanted more, and I sold more. Then they wanted even more. Before long, I was selling hundreds of ounces at a time. It became like a snowball effect. Before I know it, most of my stack was gone. And oh my goodness, I couldn't tell you what I was thinking. It's very difficult. The funny thing is that after selling, it took months to adjust mentally. For 20 years, my mindset had been stack, 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 keep stacking. Every spare dollar became silver. Every bargain had to be bought, Every time bullion now put an ad on, I'd be buying. Every dip had to be taken advantage of. It just becomes insatiable. You always want a little bit more. Breaking a habit like that is built up over 20 years. It's not easy. And for months afterwards, I found myself wanting to buy back in. I kept looking at prices. I kept thinking about rebuilding the stack, and I still do occasionally. But eventually I realised that chapter of my life has largely come to an end. And instead of accumulating silver, I'm now enjoying the process of collecting it. These pieces. Instead of buying 100 ounces, I'd rather hunt down a carded coin that I've been searching for. Instead of feeling a safe, I'm feeling collections. And for me, that's more enjoyable, for me, in a place to be for me. Now, that's not recommended for everyone else. If you're younger and building your stack, keep going. If you're in your 70s and 80s and still enjoying stacking, then yeah, keep going. This is simply where my journey has taken me. After 20 years of stacking, I've entered the unstacking phase. I've used some of those proceeds to improve my lifestyle, pay off debt, and enjoy life a little more. And with what remains, I'll continue collecting beautiful pieces like this. Although I'm on a limited income now, it won't be anywhere near as extravagant than it was in the last decades. So for me, it's no longer stack, stack, stack. It's more like collect, enjoy, and appreciate. Out with the stacking and in with the lifestyle. I'm very comfortable with that. Anyway, that's just a little update on where I am these days. I went into this rant just talking about this particular card, but I just felt I had to explain a little bit about, why you probably don't see me stacking so much and you see me showing off these beautiful carded coins. I'm both, I suppose. I'm a collector and a former stacker. I still love silver just as much as ever. The only thing that's changed is the way that I enjoy it. Now, let's get back to this beautiful 2008 Lunar mouse coin and card and add another piece to the collection.